Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, where we discuss the things of life that bring us life. My name is Andrew Olson, and I am your host. Today we'll be talking about communication. Communication. So, just before this, I had some anxiety and some stress, so I called a warm line. A warm line is a coping tool you can use. Check for your local warm line number, whatever state you're in America. I believe we all have a warm line. You can find it with a Google search, warm lines, and NAMI has a list of I think almost every state, if not a lot of them, that have warm lines. And there are recovery support specialists that you can talk with that are, I believe it's set up to where they have mental illnesses, but they're recovered, so you can relate to them. So it's pretty nifty. Kind of like pen pals. You get to know the people when you call often enough. So I called, talked about my day, talked about doing these. I don't even know what they're called. Is this a podcast? Is this a? I don't even know what this is called. I'm so new to all of this. I just want to share with people. Try and help people. I want to help people. It's really what I want to do. And the weird thing about it is the compulsion to do this video was helping me by me wanting to help people. And like when you talk about communication, one-sided communication, like selfishness, it's not productive. Wanting to engage in a conversation just to talk is one-sided. Engaging in conversation with somebody who wants to engage with you and then not contributing because of, I don't know, like maybe some people don't want to talk in conversations because they're afraid to share or they're afraid to talk about things. And I can understand why, they would want people to think, well, don't make me talk. I shouldn't have to talk. And it's like, no, you don't have to talk. But again, what's bringing you life? What's going to bring you life? What's going to bring us life? Because it's not about the individual. It's about the collective. What's going to bring people life? And I believe that communication is a large part of that. I'm sure extroverts are going to be doing a lot more talking than introverts, and maybe introverts are doing a lot more listening than extroverts. But I think the goal in life isn't just to be put into a box and say, I can't listen or I can't talk. It's like, how do I progress in my life to become a better version of myself every day? That if I'm an extrovert, how do I listen better? If I'm an introvert, how do I learn to talk better? And being that well-rounded individual, when you communicate, is going to help you and help others immensely. But back to like the anxiety and like the stress, because like I want to talk about how I want to talk about things in this channel. Like, how do I want to establish my communication with you all on this channel? Because I think that's really important, because it's going to determine who's going to be listening, who's going to be participating. And I want everybody to be participating. I want everybody to contribute. Why? Because maybe not literally everybody, but I want everybody to know that they're welcome. I want everybody to feel welcome. I don't want anybody to feel left out. We all live in this world together. I think there's a reason to believe that just because there's disagreements, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean we have to hate each other, right? Like, just because we're different and we disagree, it doesn't mean hate has to be involved or complete non-communication has to happen. Like, we should be able to be in a market getting vegetables together and not want to, argue over stuff all the time. Like, can we be decent human beings in a world together? I think that there is a time and place for that. Of course, there are extreme scenarios in this world that will not allow that to happen. So this whole concept, I'm not advocating for world peace, so to speak. It's difficult for me to put my finger on it, and I'm still trying to figure out how I want to communicate to you guys because, again, I do have my own opinions, I have my own beliefs, but I don't want to hijack the channel with my personal beliefs and things that others, to make others feel like their opinions and their beliefs don't matter too, because they do. So I made a little note to myself to try and help me stay on topic. So I want open communication for everybody. You know, the person that wants to talk about, if we're talking about popsicles and somebody wants to talk about the purple popsicle and somebody wants to talk about the red popsicle, but my favorite is the green. It's like, let's talk about all of the colors of the popsicles. Let's talk about let's have the discussion so we can educate people on how amazingly tasty popsicles are. Oh my gosh, that's funny. And that brings us life, minus the red 5 or whatever. So, side note. I want to be neutral with you guys, right? When it comes to me being neutral, it doesn't mean I might not be publicly known as a believer of Jesus, but I don't want to be somebody who, in this channel, where I shut down everybody and I'm like, this is what it is and there's no other way. I think that's been a mistake by Christians, where they project God's truth onto people that don't believe in God. How does that work? Like, if they don't believe in that entity, then how are they supposed to be subject to those laws? They're not. They're subject to their own authority, whoever else they, look at as an authority. Could be themselves, their boss, their own version of God, and Islam or Buddha or some other religion. Some of the topics that I'll be talking about will be specific to America, simply because I was educated about these topics from people that are operating in America. For instance, how to create currency. I don't know if the same ways that we would be creating currency in America would be the same thing you could do in Iran, or like maybe like, for instance, like a second or third world country. The finance system is set up different, so I'm limited in my knowledge. I'm limited in my different topics of knowledge. Like, I don't know all of history. I don't know about all the different countries. I have limited, and I may learn more stuff and help that to create more content. But at this very moment, I have limited knowledge on some of those things. So, a lot of those things. Communication styles. Let's get into, again, so I didn't go on like a website and figure out what social science and psychology says about communication styles, though I have taken lots of PSR classes, which stands for Psychosocial Rehabilitation. Those classes are designed basically to teach people how to live life in a standard way. When I think of communication styles, the first thing that I think of is there's passive, aggressive, and assertive. This is a teaching that you'll learn. And assertive is the one that they're advocating for, that others should be shooting for that. Like, you want to be an assertive person in society. That's the goal, right? You don't want to be passive. You don't want to be aggressive. You want to be assertive. And that, from what I remember, it was getting your wants and your needs met while being polite, was the definition I came up that I remember hearing. And so passive is like, oh, well, I'm struggling with this and I don't know what to do with that. But that particular person isn't really reaching out. They're not using their coping skills to talk to people and process things. They're not communicating in their relationships, so the relationships aren't really able to move forward. So their problems really can't be resolved. Their problems really can't be resolved because communication is needed to resolve a lot of the problems in our lives. Whereas the aggressive person is trying to, force people to see their point of view. And I would say aggressive communication is borderline abusive, if not abusive, because, consistent aggression in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, I mean, I would be afraid of my partner probably, or wanting to just not be afraid of them, but just decide no longer want to be with them, because that's not love. I don't want them to be aggressive with me, and I also don't want them to ignore me. And then there's the passive aggressive, which is, it's like out of all of those 5, it's like the bipolar version. I've got bipolar, right? So one day I'm this, one day I'm that, but it's a little bit different. It's kind of like you draw somebody in, you're passive. When somebody's passive, the other people have to get closer and kind of like try and talk to them and open them up and like try and get them to speak. But then out of nowhere, the passive person yells at them. And it's like, whoa, dude, like, where did that come from? So it's just kind of like, it is also abusive, and it's hard to read because people with empathy and sympathy, they want to help people, but then the aggression comes out of nowhere, and then it's like, whoa, and then like, it's really easy for people that have passive aggressive communication styles to not have a lot of good relationships. I'd say it's probably the most destructive out of all of them. That's my opinion. If you think it's different than that, that's great. From my experience, that's just what I have come to conclude. So yeah, assertive, to learn to communicate to get your wants and needs met while being polite. That is the goal. We're coming up on 15 minutes today. And a few here. I've thought about doing like a double session where it's like 30 minutes. I try and do 15-minute sessions, 15-minute talks. So we'll see how long this one's going to go for. I still haven't decided. I suppose I could talk about too, there's 3 that I know of that are, I think they're personality disorders. And when I did my research on mental illness, I ended up learning about that a little bit as well. And the 3 are psychopath, sociopath, and narcissist. And all 3 of them have communication styles that are, I think, would be extraordinary than the 5 communication styles that I listed earlier. I think that it's like an extreme, there's more of an extreme situation happening. I think maybe they all could fall into those 5 categories somewhere. So let's talk about, so a psychopath, from what I understand, are people that are born that way. I probably should have done a little bit of research, so just take all what I say with a grain of salt. And I'm going to try and say this every session that I'm teaching. Fact check. Fact check what you learn. When you're on YouTube, when you're on Facebook, and you're listening to people educate you, fact check it. Try and find 2 or 3 other people that say the same thing, that look respectable or that sound respectable. Don't just go off the first thing you hear and go live like that, because a lot of times you'll find, some of the time at least, where things are hearsay and they're not coming from a factual source, or it's a bad source. So I know that psychopath, it's something to do with their emotions, right? Like they don't have a connection between like regret and stuff like that. So they'll do mean things and not feel bad about it. So the psychopath is born that way. There's more to it, but that's just what I remember. And then the sociopath is somebody who was born normal, but through their life struggles and what they learn, they turn into something that resembles a psychopath, but that's called a sociopath. And that's a person who is created into that type of personality disorder. Again, I believe there's also a disconnect with like sympathy, empathy, emotions, stuff like that. When you do something bad, you feel bad, and I don't think they have that in their system. It's a bit different. And then the narcissist, it seems to me that the conclusion for that disorder is it all revolves around them. You could give them something good, they'll make it about them. Give something bad, they'll make it about them. I have limited knowledge on these three, but I wanted to mention them because in our society we find people who have symptoms of these sorts of these personality disorders, and using standard practice, you can't really figure it out. You have to know about the fact that there are some people you could talk assertively to them till they're blue in the face, and they're somehow still not going to line up with the healthy communication. And it's not their fault, but it's helpful for everybody to understand a general understanding of things, general knowledge, so they can help navigate their life. Just past 15 here. I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to add love languages. I don't have them written down. I didn't anticipate doing this, but maybe I'll give you guys some homework, and maybe I'll come back and make a video about it. Here, I'll give you guys some homework. This is good. I'm going to encourage you guys to go and do some research yourself. I'm going to encourage you guys to go and learn. Educate your mind, educate yourself on two things. One, love languages, which that should be fairly self-explanatory. When you go on there, you'll find a book written called The 5 Love Languages. You'll find lots of other information. And then this one's a little bit more of a deep dive. This is the types of love in Greek. English language has one word, love. For love, they have one word for love, and that's love. And so if I use it in wrong context, it can be confusing. But the Greeks have broken it down into, my studies show 8 types of love. I know I've seen like 10 and 9 and different numbers. And, feel free to find one that works for you, but I wonder if we can come to that conclusion of, like, what did the Greeks actually do? Did they actually do 8, or are we adding to it by putting 10? I found it helpful for the 8 to work for me. And maybe I'll do my next video on love. We can talk about love. One of the best ways to benefit people in communication. All right, guys, take care. I gotta figure out an ending. What am I gonna do? I hope today's video brought us all life. Take care. Bye-bye.